Welcome to the first in the series of the layout, skeleton, master sketch, whatever you want to call it, series. The first model I'm going to go through that I've used this procedure on is going to be this dump truck. Take a look at what's going on in the dump truck. First of all, it's an assembly, and the very first part, which to be honest doesn't really need to be there, in the assembly manager is the truck layout. Each one of these individual components was made separately, but there are in-context references with these. And remember that with in-context references, there's good and bad news. The good news is that one part can update another when you make a change. But the bad news is that one part can update another when you make a change. Let's look how this all started. It started with what's called here a master model part, but I wouldn't really call it that. I would call it a truck layout. And let's open this up to see what's going on. When I create vehicles in Solidworks, I often put down images to help with the layout. From the images, I create sketches. Now let's see how this is done. You have first a left sketch picture with a sketch picture underneath it. This is how you put a sketch picture into a sketch. You start by opening a new sketch, and then you insert, and then you go to Tools, Sketch Tools, and Sketch Picture. From here you can search for an image. Let's get a picture to put in here. The sketch line is in here for reference, so you can get an idea of how big the image is versus your sketch geometry. Putting in numbers in these boxes can help this out. Very often I don't use the scale tool. I'll put my own sketch in with dimensions that I know and then try to fill that. Once the sketch picture has been added, you can exit the sketch or you can keep sketching within that sketch. You find that there's a drop down now beside the sketch, and the sketch picture is in there, even if there's nothing else in the sketch. Now I'm going to suppress this and just work through some of the other sketches that are in this part. You can create sketches over the top of the images. In this case, I have two images, one from the side and one from the front. I typically do things like this when I'm creating something that's a little more curvy and something where you need a visual reference instead of something like this dump truck, which can be sketched with a bunch of straight lines and dimensions. When I'm making vehicles in particular, the first thing that's of importance is going to be the wheels, and so I'll establish the diameter and the center point for both of these wheels. This creates a wheelbase for the vehicle. The next important feature for this is going to be the dump bed, and so I've sketched that out and tried to create a pivot for that so that it can achieve the dumping position shown in the image. And of course, the frame is going to be important as well. You can turn off the sketch pictures because they do get in the way sometimes. Use F8 to add the display pane and then just turn off the sketches. That leaves you with the regular sketches shown, and it can be a lot easier to work in this way. It would be tempting to want to combine a lot of this information into a single sketch. For example, the wheels and the frame and the dumper are all created on the same plane, but they all represent different parts. And it's more helpful if you can turn one of these off at a time and continue to work on the others. So segmenting the information that you have into intelligent bundles helps you use that information more effectively. Plus, one thing that you need to remember is that this part is named truck layout. It's really not going to be used directly to create any 3D geometry. We're just using this part to create 2D geometry, which will in turn drive the 3D geometry. So now that we've seen how the layout works, let's go back to the main assembly and take a look at how the tire was made. We'll open this up in its own window just to avoid a lot of the confusion on the screen. We'll take a look at another way to do that after we've worked through this part. Now, remember, this is just one way to do things. I'm not saying it's always the best way. I'm not saying it's never the best way, but this is one way to do it. In this case, we inserted the truck layout part into this part using insert part. That means that we don't have to edit this in the context of the assembly. So if we take a look at what's under the drop down here, we've got the various sketches from the part. When you insert a part, you have the option of what kind of data you want to insert from that part. So let's go through that. I'll go to Insert, Part, select a part. We'll select the same part here. You can select a configuration if you've got those set up. And right here, we've got a list of what we want to bring across. I don't want to bring the solid bodies because there are none. But I will bring the planes, and there are no absorbed sketches, but we have several unabsorbed sketches. So I'll want to bring those. The body material and part material, I'm not going to try to bring those over because they don't exist. Just bringing over a limited amount of information helps me simplify the model and keep everything manageable. I'm going to hit the X on here because we've already seen the result of what we get. I press F8 again, and I can turn on and off some sketches. This second sketch allows me to control the height of the tire and the overall width. So when I look at the sketch used in the revolve, we can see that this is fully defined because it's connected to the layout sketch from the truck layout master part. So with that, the tire size can be controlled from the layout part. Thanks for watching, and please come back to see the next video, which will show how to do all of this using blocks instead of insert part.